What is the deal, beautiful people? My name is Ramon. Welcome back to the channel. Here we talk about any and everything photography. Today's video is a AMA, Ask Me Anything. You guys, if you're new here, you don't know how this works, you ask your question down in the comment section below and I'll answer it in upcoming videos. Today's question: I am new to street photography and I am looking for some tips. Simple question, straightforward. A lot to discuss.
1, 2, get down. Get down. 2, 1, 2, get down.
First off, thank you for your question. I want to give some context here in what makes me, what gives me the chops to answer a question like this. Well, I mean, I've spent, if you guys, you feel free to hop on my Instagram, feel free to check out my personal portfolio, rtperspective.com. The link's always in the comments or the description of the video. I decided when I started out in photography, street photography was my love, and it still is, honestly, even though I don't get to do it as much as I would like to. But I learned my chops in street photography, and I learned my cameras, multiple cameras in street photography. And I went after that, what is it, 1,000 hours or whatever, 10,000 hours. It makes you an expert at anything. I don't believe you can ever be an expert or master street photography, but I definitely know my way around my vision and what I'm looking for and what I'm looking for to capture. So, you know, I'm sharing some of these tips with you from my perspective on what got me where I am and how I became pleased with the work that I produce when out in the street. Thousands of hours out in the street, to be honest. And New York is where I would do a lot of my work, Manhattan and Brooklyn. I'd leave work at 6 o'clock and just walk for 4 or 5 hours, 4 or 5 days out of the week. And on the weekends, head into Williamsburg and Bushwick and really hone the skills. So yeah, I'm very passionate about it as a topic. So hopefully my answers, you understand where they'll be coming from. So number one, my very first and probably biggest tip when it comes to street photography is do a little bit of research, right? I think it's important to hop on Instagram and search the hashtag street photography to just get a feel for the lay of the land and see what other people out there are doing. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, it is a slippery slope. I'm not telling you to go out there and see what people are doing to imitate it, but I'm asking you to see what's out there to have like a baseline on what the genre is and can be or currently is, and then you develop from there your personal perspective on it, your vision for it, right? Just see what it is and see what it isn't. And by seeing what it is, you can see how you can add value. And by seeing what it isn't, you can see how you can add value, right? So I think it's important to just get out there in social media and just see what other people are doing. And by the way, me personally, I don't like where most street photography is these days. It's like street portraits type stuff, and that's cool. Also applicable, if you ask me, applicable. That's totally fine. I just don't prefer it that way. I like more of the stranger in the light, in the loom of darkness, with mystery, wondering what he's doing here, like that type of stuff. Also, get some books. Look at, I've said this on the channel. Luckily, I didn't get crucified. Hopefully, I won't get crucified saying it again. I look at that one photo that's kind of the poster child for street photography from Cartier-Bresson. And it's this kid hopping over a puddle, and there's so much going on in that photo, and they're like, this is it. This is the best. This is what street photography is about. This is that concise moment of when you decide to capture the and freeze the moment for all of time. And I look at that photo, I was like, man, what the fuck is this? Like, it's a dope photo, yes, but like, come on with this shit. Like, the way it's described and it is as if this man was so masterful and he like God himself put all of these things in place and just hit play at the perfect moment. And maybe it can be some of that, because if you look at his work in totality, he does strike lightning quite often, right? But there's a lot of that stuff that's going on when you look at the greats, and then you see there's people out there who've got an entire body of work who's just cigarette butts on the sidewalk in metropolitan areas, and it's like, what the fuck is this? But it's dope. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of that, and I think you can gain value from just taking it all in, what it is, for who it is, and how they describe it. And then you can get so much perspective and value from saying, yeah, that's cool, but that ain't for me. I like more this, and you dig more in that direction. So doing some research and looking to see what else is out there, I think is a super strong way to get into street photography. And it's a good way to do street photography when you can't get out, right? To contribute to your street photography goal and vision when you're not out practicing the craft. It just keeps your mind always thinking, you know, and you start to notice things when you're in the house and it's 6 a.m. and the sun's beaming through the windows. You start to notice, like, oh shit, there's that perspective on light. So when you actually go out in the world, you can spot it more easily, right? It starts with exposing yourself to street photography as a whole and what other people are doing, be it on social media or books or YouTube videos or whatever. My second tip is gear. Don't get so hung up on gear. Also, don't listen to people telling you not to get so hung up on gear. I think the context of gear in street photography is it should be a balance, and you need to understand that you can totally execute street photography in everything from a cell phone or a point and shoot to a professional full frame camera, right? So you can do it from $50 worth of gear to $0 worth of gear, the phone in your pocket, to $5,000 worth of gear, and they all have their place, and you can totally get what you want. But you know, there are some tools out there that I will subscribe to that makes it more pleasurable. For instance, when I'm doing street photography, you know, I'll reach for either my Olympus EM5 because it's how small and tactile it is and how inconspicuous it is. So if I do need to really invade someone's space because I really need this shot, I think what's happening is totally special, that camera makes it less intimidating, right? Or I'll reach for my Fuji. My Fuji X-T2 is such a way where I don't need to look at the camera to get my camera settings. Like, everything on that camera is so tactile. Every click is so satisfying. Every change of a aperture dial, of a shutter speed, like, it's such an amazing experience. And tenfold when I don't feel like going out to hit the streets and I look at those cameras give me that feeling that I described in one of my prior videos of a Porsche or a Ferrari or a Lambo. You got this sports car in your garage, and every time you look at it, all you want to do is touch it, feel it. You want to be in it. You want to drive it. You want to tear up the road. My Fuji and my Olympus does that for me. Every time I look at them, you know what? Let me hit the street for an hour or two. Let me go to Coney Island. Let me take a walk. Let me take a lap. Like, you know, gear also contributes to that. So find your balance when choosing gear. Ultimately, your gear is not that important. If I had to list a few things to tell you was important with gear when it comes to street photography, possibly the only thing I would say is find you something with a decent IBIS. And even that's not important if you focus on the what is the law? The shutter speed is twice. Your shutter speed should be twice the number of your focal length. And that would ensure that you can get relatively sharp photos, right? So even IBIS is not a requirement for street photography. Does it help? Yeah, make your life easier. It can, but it's not a requirement. So don't let the conversation of gear, particularly if money is an issue and you have to have a budget, don't feel like you don't have an adequate enough tool because you didn't have a big enough of a budget, or you don't have, I've gone to these big Instagram shoots where everyone's got Sonys and I got a Sony, it's in the bag, but right now I'm shooting with an Olympus and they're looking like, what the fuck is that? And if you're looking at my camera, you're worried about what I'm shooting, it means you're not in your own world and executing your vision. You're paying attention to mine. Get the fuck away from me, right? So don't let gear, yes, I'm an enthusiast and I love gear as much as the next person, so I'll indulge, but it shouldn't consume you. And then it's not an absolute requirement to execute your vision. Before I proceed, some housekeeping. Like the video if you like it thus far. Also, when you get a chance, check out another 2 or 3 videos on the channel. If you like those as well, hit the subscribe button. I'd love to have you as a member of this community. But here's a question for you, and you can answer it down in the comment section below. For all my street photogs, and I know there's quite a few of you here in the community, what are your tips? And I quite enjoy, and I ask that because I know you guys are well versed. I actually do learn a lot from you guys as well throughout the years. You've commented on stuff that I have had the pleasure to employ in my work, and I've seen the difference. So yeah, hit down below, help the homie out with some tips of your own. The more, the merrier. My third point, editing. I have come to the realization that I spent way too much time in Lightroom and Photoshop chasing bangers. One of the things I can now tell you after the fact, these days I don't edit any of my personal work, very few, unless it's a project where it's kind of fine art stuff. But all my street stuff is right out of the camera, and I'm so proud of that. And I would love for you, I did a video a while back about that. I would love for you all to get to a place where you don't even need to put your SD card in your computer. Like, you don't even need to do that. I put my shit I copy my files straight up to OneDrive to store, right on my phone to post whenever I feel the need to post. And I'm super happy with that. And I spent probably 3 to 4 years diving deep into Lightroom and Photoshop and color grading and S-curves and all types of stupid shit. And it's like, I wouldn't say it wasn't worth it. It did pay off for me because I know my way around those tools, and those tools are now invaluable for me in my professional line of photography work. But it did add some value to my street work. So much so where I do have a style, but I'm not heavily relying on that style. Like, I parted ways with my edited style like 3 or 4 years ago, probably right before the pandemic. And now my style is composition and storytelling, right? So you may see photos from an iPhone, or you may see photos from my Olympus, or you may see photos from my Fuji. And by the way, my Fuji and Olympus, I use the default art styles in there. I tweak them just a little, and I'm happy with how they look. And that's another avenue. Look at the picture profiles in your cameras to see if you can achieve a street look that's quite pleasing for you. And I don't need to say anything about that in the Fuji world. We all know what the film recipes does in the Fuji world, and I quite enjoy that. So yeah, yes, it's part of the world, but I would say I wish I dialed back about 80% of the time I spent in post and reinvest that in being out in the street more. And I would have arrived at a place where I was so much happier with my composition and my execution a lot sooner. So that's a tip I would like to give to you to hopefully save you some time. My final point or my final tip really is understanding the purpose of street photography. The purpose of street photography is it's not to show off the dynamic range of your full frame camera. It's not to show off the pleasing color work that the recipes from your Fuji can pull off. It's not to show off the impressive ibis of your Olympus camera by hand holding a 2-second shot at night. The purpose of street photography is to capture a moment in time that hopefully in 10 plus years you can look back on and sit down and have your mind run free on what a world that shot existed within. It should be a capsule to here's how people dressed in that time. You see the look of anguish on these people's face at that time. You see the face masks and you remember the pandemic. You know these moments that you capture and within that time capsule. That's my preferred way of looking at it. But also there's the ability in street photography to just capture places and moments as they exist and really just look back and appreciate it. That's the purpose. And once you remember that that's the purpose, I think as you learn your camera, as you become more familiar with your gear, as you learn the photography communities that you land within and influences that influence the work that you do, remembering that it's about that time capsule mentality, so that you can appreciate this moment, this fleeting moment later on. It allows you to lend some trade-offs, right? So if I don't have the best camera and I didn't get it at the best ISO, it's a little noisy or it's a little fuzzy because I didn't have the right shutter speed, like you start to care a lot less about these things and more about, but I got the moment. I got it. That's what's important, right? And I think realizing that it's about the moment gives you a freedom that you can't get if you are always chasing perfection, right? A lot of street photography is sloppy. A lot of it's luck. A lot of it's chance. And a lot of it's things you just don't control. And that's the beauty of it. It's about existing in moments where you don't control, but you can extract the beauty and the conversation and the what's worthwhile. That's what's dope about it. Not all the other shit. So don't let the other shit seep in and consume you. It can guide you, sure. It can shape you. Yes, it can mold you, absolutely. But don't let it consume you. Storytelling is number one. That's why we do this. Hopefully you liked the video. Hopefully I answered your question in a meaningful way. And I'm hoping that the community can come through with some more tips down below. My name is Ramon. Thank you for stopping by. Like the video if you like it. I'm out of here. Peace.